Everybody, Clifford here, and thank you for joining me today. Before I get started, I just like to let everyone know I do apologize for that, probably that cricketing sound you're hearing in the background. Um, I'm pretty sure we got like a grasshopper or some kind of cricket in the house somewhere. Um, Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to tell where it's coming from exactly, but I do apologize for any of that noise you're hearing. I do apologize for that. Also, if you also hear my washing machine make a lot of rumbling and bumblings and stuff, our washing machine is not really that great. Right? It keeps getting off balance a lot. So yeah. So if you hear any loud noises or anything like that in the background, I do apologize. So let's get into the video, shall we? Okay, so today we're going to be doing a Nami video. If everyone remembers, during the One Piece, the previous One Piece chapter review that I did on 1058, in that chapter when it was revealed, or not like necessarily revealed, but it was sort of given to us as sort of a gag that Nami potentially had Conquerors Haki, and then I stated that I was going to do like a more full-on video, exactly, sort of giving exact details on like what I thought about it and like what I could see out of it and like how I think it could actually work and possible reasons on why you can actually consider this a possibility. So let's get into it, shall we? So yeah, so this will basically be a Nami video, sort of going over some general thoughts and ideas on like why she could have Conquerors Haki, why also going over like reasons like on how it could be used and like sort of like things like that. All right, so the first start off to go with like I basically said before is like I have no problems with me having I have no problems myself with Nami having Conquerors Haki. I mean, if that's what Oda's choosing to do, then if he prefers it that way, then that's up to him. Now the interesting thing about this is that what a lot of people see this as like when it was revealed in the chapter, it was sort of given to us as a gag, and a lot of people like sort of bring it up. Like some people sort of like see it as just a gag, while some people see it as a gag, but is also seen as like something to hint something in the future, like something is to forecome. Sort of, people sort of like bring up the same thing of like when it was sort of like given off like a bit of a gag that Zoro had Conquerors Haki. So a lot of people are sort of like seeing that as maybe a possible thing as well. So it's kind of like a fork in the road to where, like where you come to a fork in the road, and then if you go right, then Nami gets Conquerors Haki. But yeah, if you go left, Nami doesn't get Conquerors Haki, and it just remains a gag. So to be honest, it's up to Oda, and knowing Oda, he can go any direction with it. So it's at this point, it's almost hard to tell. It's just speculation, but it's fun speculation to go over, and I feel like that would be really important. Okay, so I've already stated that I have no problems with Nami having Conquerors Haki. I mean, if Oda doesn't want to have Conquerors Haki, that's fine. Now, a lot of people sort of given like their general thoughts, like what best Haki would represent each of the Straw Hats necessarily. And this mostly like goes over the ones who really don't have Haki all that much. Most people sort of give like observation Haki with Nami necessarily. Now, just because Oda is hinting that Nami will have Conquerors Haki doesn't necessarily disprove the fact that maybe she won't get observation Haki or even argument Haki. Nothing disproves that at all. I mean, anyone like it is possible for a character to have three forms of Haki. Look at Luffy for an example. All right, Luffy is very well adapting at using observation Haki. He's been trying to increase that to even to the point where he can use Future Sight. His armor Haki has been increased very well, and he's even trying to learn to increase his Conquerors Haki to a new level. The fact that his Haki had upgraded during his fight with Kaido to be able to learn new things. Thanks. So it doesn't necessarily disprove or basically give unwanted support to say that Nami can't learn other Haki as well, even if Oda is showing that yes, she has a Conqueror's Haki. There's nothing to disprove that necessarily. So it's really up in the air. Now, there is like one reason like you can look at good reasons to state like why Nami could have Conqueror's Haki and why Oda is choosing Nami necessarily, right? Now, we do know, one thing we can look at is that a lot of times, like especially in the color spreads as that you look at, Oda always chooses Nami to represent like the queen of the pirates, right? He always uses her to represent like a queen aspect, with Luffy being sort of represented as sort of the king aspect, and Nami being represented as the queen aspect. So, we can also see this as maybe a foretelling that Oda always chose to, like, he always planned to have something bigger planned for Nami. I mean, instead of just being, like, a weak woman who basically just like a weak woman who just basically followed the strong captain, and that he's just waiting for the moment to basically reveal something about her that's never been foretold. Now there are some mysteries about Nami. I mean, that is like up in the air. Like her so-called past with the orphanate war that happened at her home island that was basically destroyed that Bellamere found her. Or there are some questions that are like sort of up in the air about that. I mean, not a lot of people are asking it, but there are some questions about it. Her ability to necessarily sense the weather is kind of like weird because no other character has been shown to be able to sense the weather like she does. So it is kind of curious and like how that necessarily works, and maybe Oda is going to reveal something about that that we had never thought of before. So and especially like since we're in the end game now, Oda's got like really planned this, right? So he's got to make sure like how he's going to do this is going to work real well. Now, we know necessarily that, as I mentioned before, like Oda is always choosing Nami to sort of like represent like the queen of the pirates necessarily. Now that doesn't mean that Oda is going to state that Nami is like declaring to be queen of the pirates. No, it's just the fact that since like Luffy's like the main male character and like Nami's the main female character of the series, using these two characters to represent the king and queen aspect of it. And knowing that Luffy is like learning is like has like the sort of the abilities is of to be a king necessarily. Um, Maybe Otis like trying to draw potential to give us to say that hey, even Nami has a potential to be a queen, and maybe she just doesn't realize it yet. Yeah, but she has that potential. You know? Another thing we can look at is like the growth of how Nami came to be necessarily. Ever since like the beginning of the story, or maybe not like necessarily the exact beginning, but one place that we can look at is like how far Nami has grown and what she's learned from Luffy necessarily because of how she met Luffy. Ever since like the moment when I believe it maybe first started necessarily when Luffy sort of placed his hat in Nami, and then every step throughout the entire series, the more that Nami has been with Luffy and has traveled with him, she's basically grown more confidence in herself. She's basically learned to hold on to her willpower necessarily to like sort of believe in more possible outcomes necessarily, even if she's like not necessarily as like a brave in the same sense of like how Luffy is to always like rush into immediate danger, or but never want to necessarily back down from danger or necessarily. I think that's important to state. Other moments we can look at, as I just mentioned, where like Luffy placing his hat on Nami, and then going over even as far into the Wano arc, where a lot of moments come up, especially like moments where she basically like stood up against Ulti to basically declare and basically state that Luffy will be king of the pirates, even though she was very scared and very scared in that moment, and her will or her belief that Luffy will be king of the pirates did not break in that moment. Even when she had Big Mom basically standing right behind her after attacking Ulti, Nami basically just stood her ground out and stayed like told Usopp that no, I'm not going to run anymore, or I'm basically going to fight like this woman, and I'm going to beat her. Or unfortunately, it didn't exactly turn out the way as it was sort of stated in the manga, but in the end, Nami did eventually beat Ulti. And then you have the best moment of all when Kaido basically after Luffy if everyone remembers in 1042, I believe it was 1042. I might be mistaken, but if everyone remembers, right before Luffy had awakened his Delphi ability, after Kaido had smashed his his club down after Luffy was distracted by that CP0 member, Kaido came down and basically declared that Luffy was dead. Nami basically called out Kaido as a liar and didn't believe him, and Kaido basically stated that at least some of you still have some spunk. And in that moment, and even though Nami was on the ground crying, she didn't necessarily like in that moment when Kaido basically attacked her, or necessarily, and she was crying out for Luffy, in that moment, and she didn't necessarily like she didn't believe that Kaido was telling the truth. That's not what it was, but it was just like in that moment, and she really didn't want to believe it, but yet part of her maybe something was coming up necessarily. So Nami has faced dangers head on, dangers that she never would have been able to survive against if she had met Luffy. So, and knowing that there's challenging things that have come up with necessarily, and the fact that who Luffy is, like it's not just her, but with all the Straw Hats, as they've grown to new levels, they've grown new heights. They basically basically would beyond their potentials to things that they've never experienced before. And I think because of like this whole journey that they're going with Luffy, I think there is enough reasons to basically state or see why Nami is reasonable enough to say like, yes, she deserves to have Conquerors Haki. Now, just because that's necessarily the case doesn't mean that you have to support it. I mean, if you don't like, if you're not a big fan of Nami having Conquerors Haki, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to enjoy it if you don't want to. But we also have to remember that this is Oda's story, and then we have to let him tell the story that he wants to tell. So even though I'm perfectly fine with Nami having Conquerors Haki, I also have to accept the fact that if Oda's just using this as a gag, then I've got to accept that, and I do plan to accept it if that's what comes. A lot of thing with another thing to point out with Conquerors Haki necessarily, especially with Nami, is that a lot of people in the fan base, they sort of use Nami's happiness punch as sort of like as sort of like a gag to reflect on Conqueror's Haki and say like, oh yeah, Nami has Conqueror's Haki. This is her Conqueror's Haki. Happiness Punch! If everyone's familiar with Happiness Punch, is basically where, where if Nami's in a bathhouse necessarily and her towel drops, or basically where she's just showing off her perfectly good-looking body, and then anyone who sees it is completely memorized and they completely pass out. Some of them ended up bleeding, getting a severe nosebleed severely, and they're both physically hurt in the sense of like being passed out after witnessing what they just saw all and suffering a massive nosebleed. So you can imagine like the pain in their nose that they're receiving, but also the fact that even their wallets are completely empty. The fact that Nami basically took all the money out of their pockets. So yeah, it's insane. So, and look, one thing we also have to consider necessarily is that even if Oda, basically, like what I'm trying to say is like, even if Oda is like choosing to use Nami and sort of give her the reasons why she wants to be why he desires her to get the Conquerors Haki, we also have to like sort of think and consider like, how well could this be established? Like, what are some good reasons necessarily why he would choose Nami? One good reason that we can look at is maybe because of like the end game necessarily, and maybe Blackbeard, right? I mentioned this before in some of my other videos that I sort of believe that that Zoro, Luffy, and Nami, that these three will be probably the main primary ones to face off against Blackbeard. I have no evidence of it. I have no support of it. I know a lot of people probably disagree on that and say no. If anyone's going to face off against a Blackbeard, it'll be Luffy mostly, and if any other strats have to help, it'll be Zoro and Sanji. Look, I have no disagreement with that. All right, and it could totally be possible. Okay, but ever since like but ever since when Blackbeard was first introduced, it's when you think about it that Oda chose Luffy, Zoro, and Nami, these three characters to be the first one to meet him, and sort of like, and in that moment, and like another thing to go over in that necessarily is that in that moment, Zoro and Luffy were basically able to tell that there was something off about Blackbeard, and that they could sense something. But in that moment, Nami didn't really sense it. She didn't understand what they were talking about. So I think necessarily that when it comes to it again, when they meet Blackbeard, when all three of them fully meet Blackbeard again, I think in that second moment, and Nami is finally going to, in that moment, I feel like Nami is finally going to basically sort of get a feeling or sort of understand what Zoro and Luffy were basically stating, is that that they were right. It's not he, it's they, it's them. It's like there's someone else there. So I think necessarily like when they meet again, Nami might also understand or might come to aware like what Luffy and Zoro were referring to necessarily. Now this is like that's up in the air. There's no evidence of me supporting that, but it could be a possibility. Okay. And necessarily because like we know that Oda basically in Wano, he did give Zoro Conqueror's Haki necessarily. So one possibility we can look at is like after with Luffy's whole fight with Kaido that went down, we got a very big revelation that Kaido basically stated that Roger conquered the seas and he didn't even have a Delph route. He relied mostly on building up his Haki, and the fact that we know that Blackbeard's crew is trying to build up more on Delph route, maybe Oda is sort of like giving this as like a lot of people in the fan base are basically stating that if Luffy's team really wants to be Blackbeard, they might have to learn Haki as much as possible or trying to upgrade, right? So, and if Oda is choosing to have Luffy, Zoro, Nami be the main focus to go up against Blackbeard, I think necessarily what this could probably look at is that, and if he's choosing Nami to have Conqueror's Haki as well, maybe it'll be a showdown, and maybe just maybe as potentially it'll be a three-way Conquerors Haki against Blackbeard. And like to be honest, I'd have to stop and ask myself and think, would Blackbeard or even Kaido or even Big Mom would they be able to survive three different Conquerors Haki's attack at once. Now Luffy has basically increased his conquerors. Well, not necessarily increased, but he's learned to wield it to a much greater extent, and so he's basically learned new things about it. But that doesn't mean he's a professional at it, right? And I imagine like he'll even help Zoro to be able to sort of like give details on like how this whole conquerors things work. Now that's probably not going to be the case because Luffy's not necessarily a teacher, so him explaining things wouldn't really be the best idea, even if he tried to. So I don't think that would be necessarily a good idea. And truth be told, I feel like Zoro would be able to figure out on his own. Like even like Zoro's always been well established of figuring things on his own. So be honest, I don't think it really matters or has any good point to even state that Luffy needs to show them him. But and one thing we can look at necessarily, like, and this would be kind of cool. Like we know necessarily that Kaido basically mentioned that you can even add Conqueror's Haki to your weapons or to your attacks, right? Like you don't necessarily have to basically the way Conqueror's Haki worked before is like we thought it was just like a willpower thing, to where you can like a burst of energy and basically like spread it out and knock out an entire army. But Kaido basically mentioned is that yes, while that is possible, you can also apply these things to your attacks or even to your weapons, right? It's very similar to like it's almost confusing to like armament Haki necessarily to Conquerors Haki. It's almost confusing to that moment where you can add armament Haki to your weapons, and but the main difference is like how the power is established necessarily. So um early and that's basically an important thing to go over. And one thing to basically like see about this is like, okay, so since we know that Luffy has got Conqueror's Haki and we know that Zoro's got Conqueror's Haki, one thing that you can imagine, Jen, is if Nami was able to learn to apply the Conqueror's Haki to say like her bow staff, or maybe even learn to be able to basically adapt Conqueror's Haki to Zeus himself, right? Just imagine that if Nami was able to increase Zeus's power, or from not just being a thunderstorm arm, but to a conquering thunderstorm arm, basically a conquering thunderstorm Zeus, full of conquering lightning thing that base like. Be honest, I don't even like. I would be completely shocked and like I would be amazed and like be honest if Nami had Conqueror's Haki during the beginning innings like that during Wano stuff often, like even if Zeus had Conqueror's Haki necessarily, and I was able to apply to it, man, oh man, would her attacks would be insane. And I don't think anyone survived. I don't even think maybe Kaido would be able to survive, but he probably feel like a lot of damage. Like that would probably hurt a lot. And so maybe what Oda's planning to do here is like give these three Conquerors Haki, because this is going to be the biggest showdown where Luffy is basically going to need help. Luffy's always wanting to defeat the main bad guy of the story no matter what, but even like with every big moment, Oda is like shown to us like, yes, while Luffy is growing stronger every day, there are times when he's going to need help, and the fact that and if it comes to it, like Blackbeard is going to be the big bad, and we know like I have no doubt in my mind that Luffy is going to be the one to basically defeat Blackbeard and probably get the final but I do not doubt the possibilities that Oda will use Luffy, Zoro, and Nami as sort of a triple tag team to go up against Blackbeard Blackbeard first before anything else. So look, there's many potential reasons to get if like there's like Nami having Conqueror's Haki is sort of like it's a far-fetched thing, all right? Like there's no like real evidence to support it. It's really just given as a gag, but you can take it as a foretelling thing, or you can just keep it as a gag. I mean, it's really up in the air of how some people prefer to see it. I have no problems with Nami having Conqueror's Haki. I feel like she can work real well with it if Oda's planning to do it that way. Right. So overall, if I had to guess, I'm going to assume that Oda would give her Conqueror's Haki because he plans on having Luffy, Zoro, and Nami go up against Blackbeard the most, and maybe we're going to get like a conquering showdown. Like just like think about it necessarily. Like if Luffy attacked with his Goma Goma no Nami, like his Goma Goma Nami, whatever attack, King Kong Gung or Hanuman Fitness, the whatever that Monkey God Fitness. Yeah, the Monkey God Fitness. If he did the Monkey God Fitness and Zoro did his three sword styles, conquering slashes, whatever, and Nami had a conquering Zeus, and like all of them attacked Blackbeard at once, you'd have to stop and think and basically state like, will Blackbeard be able to survive that? Will any character be able to survive that? Like, to be honest, I don't even think Kyle could survive that. Um, so yeah, it's insane. All right, there's many reasons to like go over it. There's many reasons to believe, but overall, right now in the current storyline, we just gotta wait to see. We gotta wait to see how Oda's gonna choose to do it. But hey, but that's all I got right now. I basically given my thoughts, my general opinions, like how I basically stated it, how I basically see it. Hey, if you do enjoy Nami having Conquerors Haki, that's great. All right. If you don't enjoy her having Conquerors Haki, that's fine. All right. We all have our own opinions, and we all have our own opinions like how we like prefer things. All right. So hey, that's all I got for this video. Oh, I don't got anything else. So yeah. Hey, if you did enjoy the video, please let me know by smashing that like button. All right. Also, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you choose to, and hit the notification bells, all right? And before I go, I'd like to also apologize one last time, not necessarily, for the loud cricketing sound you're hearing, and also like to apologize, I also like to apologize if you were having a hard time hearing me because of that loud beeping. So hey, overall, you all have a great day, and as the final bow out, here's a final picture of Nami to enjoy. So goodbye, everybody.